is a terminal processor from the Snapdragon G series gaming platform. Its performance actually comes very close to that of the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2. Let's take a look at the benchmark scores. The G2 G2 can hit 1.66 million points. Now let's compare this with the Snapdragon 865 model. The RP5, for reference, scored 1.05 million points. Thus, this device demonstrates an approximate 60% performance improvement over the RP5. Now, let's contrast this with the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 device, which typically achieves a benchmark score of 1.75 million points. Examining the detailed subscores, both GPUs registered around 400,000, with the G2 even showing a slight edge. Regarding the CPU performance, the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 scores slightly higher by 20,000 points. The primary area where the 8 Gen 2 truly excels and establishes a noticeable lead is in its memory score. However, the overall score difference between them is actually quite minor, amounting to just about 5%. This RPG2 can effectively be considered a half-generation upgrade from the RP5, given that its exterior design, screen, and all peripheral configurations like its buttons remain the same. The sole alteration lies in its processor. This is precisely why online communities have dubbed this particular device the RP 5.5. As we've just observed, its performance mirrors that of the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 quite closely. Therefore, what distinctions in gaming experience exist between it and the 8 Gen 2? Furthermore, how robust is the driver support for this G2 Gen 2 processor? We're about to unveil the answers for you. In God of War 2, the initial segment of the game operates seamlessly at a 3.5x resolution. However, if the resolution is boosted to 4x, a slight decrease in frame rate becomes noticeable. There was a slight dip in frame rate just a moment ago, falling to 53, then 50 frames per second. At 4x resolution, the lowest it will drop is around 50 frames. Now let's take a look at how a device with a Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 performs in the exact same scene. Currently, it's set to 4x resolution. Previously, the frame rate briefly dipped to a minimum of 52 frames. The lowest it registered was 52 frames. It never actually went below 50 frames. Thus, it seems that the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 model and the 8 Gen 2 model is just a 2-frame difference. Let's move on to see if there's any distinction in NS emulator performance. I'm currently utilizing the Eden emulator coupled with the T22 driver. Inside the temple, we're getting a consistent 30 frames per second. Now let's venture outside to observe the frame rate there. It's 30 frames per second, which is quite stable. This frame rate performance is essentially consistent with that of the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2. Quick with the evening plays without any issues, basically holding at 30 frames with no graphical errors. It seems the driver compatibility for this Snapdragon G2 Gen 2 CPU is quite good. It's stable indoors as well. Let's try some other games. In Oyster Bee Dream Pig, it's around 25 frames per second at its lowest. Ranging from 25 to 30 frames per second. Even though it occasionally drops to 22 or 24 frames, Oyster Bee Dream Pig still can't quite maintain a steady 30 frames per second. It might drop a few frames sometimes, but it's generally still playable. Perhaps some of you are concerned about 8 GB of RAM causing crashes when playing NS games? The official word is that this handheld comes with 6 GB of preset virtual memory. With this 6 GB of virtual memory, this can, to a certain extent, alleviate the problem of apps crashing. Based on the game test we just conducted, the RPG2's gaming performance is essentially on par with the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2. So, are its other configurations completely identical to the RP5? Let's take a look right now. Firstly, their button tactile feedback is entirely consistent. The D-pad is a rubber pad D-pad, and the ABXY buttons use conductive rubber. The joysticks are both Hall effect joysticks, which provide a very smooth feel. Let's take a look at the weight of these handheld devices. The RP5 weighs 272 grams, and the RPG2 comes in at 270 grams, making it slightly lighter by 2 grams. Considering its weight and compact size, the RPG2 offers exceptional portability. Its physical dimensions are even. The device is even a little smaller than a switch light. On the back of the handheld, there are 2 rather small protrusions. If you still find that its grip feel is not ideal, you have the option to buy the official accessory, which is a TPU grip case. Once this grip case is properly installed, the comfort of holding the device can be substantially improved. After attaching the grip case, its overall weight. The device weighs 343 grams, which means some portability is sacrificed. Now let's take a look at how 3DS games perform. It's very smooth, but on this 5.5-inch screen, the dual screen display is a little small.
It's basically smooth. Now we'll test a few more games. Resident Evil 6 is one of those games that has vibration. The G2's vibration feels quite refined, not just a crude rumble. Resident Evil 6, I actually found that it runs quite fluidly and smoothly.
Playing P52 is also not an issue at all. So that concludes our review of the VSOL Pocket G2 handheld today. This console, as an upgraded version of the RP5, offers significantly enhanced performance, nearly matching the Snapdragon 8. And at just $1,399, its cost effectiveness is outstanding.